Hi everybody, it's Paul here from Ballistic Blood Bullets. Today I wanted to share my great love and passion for one of the Euro B-movie greats of action cinema, and that's Bruno Mattei, aka Vincent Dawn. And as Vincent Dawn, he's got many other pseudonames as well, as I'm sure you probably all know. David Hunt, Bob Hunter, and my favourite of all is Pierre LeBlanc, which always reminds me of Pepe Le Pew, the skunk from the cartoon series. Now obviously what we're looking at here, well I say obviously, but to most people it should be obvious, is one of Bruno's greatest B-movie slices of goodness, Robo-War. One of the reasons I'm looking at Robo-War first and foremost is to share this Japanese VHS original tape with Simon from Explosive Action. He's a big fan of Bruno Mattei as well, and particularly of Robo-War. I know this is the tape that he's after, and I promised him that I would give it some love on the channel here. So here is the love for Bruno Mattei's Robo-War. Good thing about Robo-War, not only lots of action, but stars Reb Brown, Rebel Yell, as I like to call him. Brown, he's always fierce and mighty and shouts at the top of his voice, but he's such a larger-than-life character. He really brings these movies alive. Now, the thing about Robo-War is that it's not just starring Reb Brown, but it also has a host of other recognisable B-movie stars. Not to mention the Terminator-esque RoboCop Predator of the film itself. Lots and lots of action in this one. Very, very entertaining movie. And it features, as do a lot of the Bruno Mattei films, what I like to call or refer to as Bruno Falls. Now what I mean by Bruno Falls is that if you watched a lot of these films, and the ones in the Philippines where this particular reference applies to, and the Bruno Falls is a waterfall. Whenever you watch these films that he predominantly shot in the Philippines, there is a waterfall, and he always uses the same waterfall. But of course, being a B-movie canny director, he shoots the waterfall from various angles, so it gives the impression that it's not the same waterfall. But of course, those of us who watch these films with regularity know better. But one of the best uses of this particular waterfall is at the end of Robo-War, when Colonel Murphy Brown, aka Reb Brown, takes a mighty leap to save his life off of the top of the waterfall. Great stuff. There they are, Simon. That's for you. That's Robo-War, Japanese original tape, in all its very fine glory. Now, the purpose of actually doing this as well is not just to do it on Bruno, because Bruno's made so many films. He's made something like 50 films plus. What I wanted to just start off with today really was to focus on some of the action films that he made predominantly in the 80s, and featuring the two of his main stars for these films, and that would be Brent Huff and Reb Brown. Reb, of course, who is, as we say, the star of this particular great movie outing. But also during this period, Bruno worked with a lot of American and British stars like Lou Ferrigno, Christopher Connolly, Miles O'Keeffe, Bo Svensson and Donald Pleasance. And one of the other amazing names to to contract that Bruno was able to apply during the 80s was that of Richard Harris, which was one hell of a signing actually, a big major Hollywood star. And Richard Harris starred alongside Brent Huff in this rather fabulous movie, which is Strike Commando 2. Again, an absolute explosive B-movie, Italian-made action, wonderful movie. He really, as far as I'm concerned, didn't make a bad movie at all that had either Brent Huff in it or Red Brown. They really brought the action, explosive action, or the exploding huts very much to life. And great credit to both of them, because they really put their heart and soul in it. You watch the film, I mean, the outtakes of these films must have been just absolutely incredible. The fun they must have had on set would just make for a fantastic disc on its own, just to watch the fun that they all clearly must have had. Absolutely brilliant. As I say, starring Richard Harris and the awesome Brent Huff. Now, of course, before before I go to, there was a prequel to, obviously, Strike Commando, hence that Strike Commando 2. But before that, we've got another Brent Huff one here, which is Cop Game, which is a crime action Filipino explosive action movie again, and these are all made around sort of between about 87 and 89. As I say, this one again stars Brent Huff, and once again he puts his heart and soul into the movie and really brings it alive in a really entertaining fashion. So that's Cop Game. Terrific stuff. Now back to what I was just mentioning, and that was again Red Brown. Look at the size of that gun. Even Hulk Hogan hasn't got guns like that, has he? Absolutely incredible, fantastic stuff. And this is Red Brown in Strike Commando. You've got to love the Italian styled artwork that went into these posters as well. Just glorious. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Strike Commando, same old thing. It's like another Rambo clone, but in the very best possible entertaining way. So there's, it's one of these Xerox-made movies by Bruno. A faux movie, but absolutely brilliant stuff. Now, what's quite cool here in my collection with the Strike Commando tape is that there are at least two, certainly two that I've got, VHS originals, and very slightly different in style on the cover art. So this is the first one. The second one is this one. Again, fabulous gun. If you look at the surround, it's slightly different, and the vibrancy of the colours on this particular cover are just that little bit sharper and greater. Same film, same cut, same edition, uncut, and it's on the back here that are slightly different pictures that they're showing. It's a classic scene with Red Brown. Actually, sorry, when I say Red Brown, that's actually Alan Collins going up against the Russian that Red Brown at the end of the movie has a fantastic run-in with. And there's a scene with a gaping mouth and a hand grenade. I'll leave the rest to your imagination. Those of you who haven't seen it, it's a must-see. So there we are. That is the second tape of the incredible Strike Commando. And that really is, as I say, one major gun. Another movie from Brent Huff. This is one of my favourite ones actually. This was made right at the end of the 80s. I think it was about 1989. So really when the Italian action cinema was considered to be slightly in decline, this movie came along, and it's like Bruno had, let's say he had the money left over from perhaps a shoot that he'd done maybe just a few months before the same year, and he had a lot of pyrotechnics and explosives left over, and it was his last shoot for that year. And you get the impression that he said to his filmmaking colleagues, what the heck, let's literally blow this budget. And they blow it in explosive style, because the film is just totally over the top in the second part. Everything is blown up in multitudes, hut after hut after hut. It really is hut time. Lots of weapons, lots of explosive, lots of bullets, lots of gunfire. It's just superb stuff. It's one of my best films, and it's got the classic line that I always like to quote from Brent Huff, when he more than one occasion actually uses the phrase "it can be done." And I think that perhaps he might have actually got that from Bruno when he was splashing out the cash left over on this one. And he must have just literally said, explode this, explode that, it can be done. When he was challenged by the people who said, oh, have we got the money to do this? And he just said, it can be done. And Brent Huff perhaps used that inspiration for his own character. But again, with Brent Huff and Red Brown, I really got the impression that they both ad-libbed and were allowed to just free rein with a lot of this stuff, and they just had a blast. It really is just absolutely fantastic stuff. So there are some of the action movies. One of the other things I wanted to touch on with Bruno Mattei during this period was that he also made a couple of Western movies, spaghetti Western type movies, certainly influenced by the types of Leone and similar people from the 60s and early 70s, and he almost reignited the genre, and he made a couple of fantastic spaghetti Western type movies. And one of those movies was a film called Scalps. Pretty much it's a very nihilistic, brutal, hard-hitting film. Doesn't really take any prisoners, but I mean, it's not nasty for nasty's sake at all. Far from it, but it's realistic. You get a real feel and edginess and grit to the style and pacing of the film. And this is one that he did with his cohort, and that was Claudio Fragasso. Claudio, again, he's made some amazing stuff, and he's a director in his own right. He made some interesting movies, some less salacious than others, shall we say. He made Troll 2. Anyone that can make Troll 2 and get away with it certainly deserves some credit, that's for sure. He was he wrote a lot of this stuff with Bruno, and he was also a regular, as I say, with him, and an assistant director on a lot of the films, including this one, as I say, Scalps.